Hello and welcome to All Things Foster, a place for coffee, connection, and community. Thank you for joining us today. Grab your coffee and let's dive in. Before we get to Donna, who's our guest today, our episode this week of All Things Foster is sponsored by Amarillo National Bank. We are incredibly grateful for Amarillo National Bank's generous support through a major grant that allows POCN to continue providing placement packages to children entering foster care throughout the 26 counties of the Panhandle. Their commitment ensures that every child receives essential items like clothing, car seats, diapers, and comfort items right when they're needed most. Amarillo National Bank continues to lead the way in strengthening families and uplifting our community, and we are honored to partner with them. And so, yeah, guys, we got a pretty substantial grant from them a few weeks ago, and so we're super thankful for their support. And just in case, if you don't know, we do a placement package when kiddos come to a family, whether it's through foster care, kinship placement, and those kinds of things. And so we're there. Each placement package costs about $430. They get a suitcase, a Bible, a teddy bear, a book, a toy, and a blanket. And then other than that, it's whatever they need. So it could be clothes and diapers and car seats and just so many things. And so we've done 144 of those this year, covering the 26 counties, which, to put that in perspective, that's the size of West Virginia. So we cover a pretty big area. And so Amarillo National Bank's grant is just helping us continue to grow that program and things like that. So anyways, back to what we're here for today. Donna Pope, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast here today.
Thanks for having me. And I'm fascinated by what you're talking about. What an amazing thing. So how did that get started? And I don't want to take over the interview, but how did that get started?
Well, so we have 3 kids that came to us through a kinship placement. And so they're 13, 16, and 18 now. But when the older 2 came at one point, and we had them for a year, but during that year, we just really didn't have any support. And so they ended up going back with the bio mom. And then 2 years later, we get a call to take them back plus the new baby sister. And we said yes. Well, at that point, people just started bringing us stuff. I had a daughter married and one getting married. We didn't have anything for a 2, 4, and 6-year-old. And so these people just started bringing us stuff. And so I really felt like God was saying, this is what we should be doing. And so I came up with this idea of the placement package and started a nonprofit in 2017 and ran it while working full time until June of 2024, when I finally was able to step away from my job and get to do this full time. So that's where the idea came from. People just brought us stuff, and it was like, man, this is so helpful. And so, yeah, so we didn't know what the heck we were doing starting a nonprofit, but we
did it anyway.
We were kind of figuring it out.
I think that's how all of us do everything. We just figure it out as we go along.
Yeah. You see a need, and you're like, hey, I think I can help fix this need or fix this issue. So anyway, so Donna, so tell us, you're with Heart to Heart Adoptions, right?
Correct.
And for how long?
Well, like your story, I saw a need and created it. I actually, my sister was adopting children because she couldn't have children. And in the process of kind of trying to help her a little bit, I started housing birth moms, not for her. Actually, I'd been doing that for a while. So birth moms, an agency came to me and said, can you house these birth moms? And I had an extra room. And so they would come and stay with me during the time that they were pregnant. So I started to get to know these women really well.
Yeah.
I could tell you all kinds of stories. I remember one woman, she would go out on the balcony and she'd be out there just talking away. And she'd be smoking and talking. And I'd go out and look to see who she was talking to. And the neighbors down below would complain, she's yelling at us. And then I began to realize she's not talking to anybody we see. She was talking to somebody. She was diagnosed eventually as schizophrenia, and she would have these wonderful conversations with this person that we couldn't see. And I asked her, I said, do you see somebody or do you feel somebody there? And she goes, I don't see him, but I sense their presence there. And this was like her best friend. So I got to know sort of the idiosyncrasies of these women.
Mm.
But one of the things that I noticed that was problematic to me was kind of the disrespect that was shown by the adoption community.
Yeah.
Um, and that bothered me a lot. So we started an agency with the idea of giving birth moms uh, a respectful, loving, experience. Now,
Yeah.
is it hard for women? Oh, yes, it's very hard, but there is something to feeling valued,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so that's kind of what we've been doing, and so I started it about 27 years ago, 1998, and
Wow.
we've been going since that time.
Wow. And so, and you guys do domestic adoptions. Do you know roughly how many y'all have done in the last 27 years?
About 2000.
Wow.
About 2000. So, and then we're also starting a new project, which I'd love for you to get involved in as well. And this is what we call adoptions.com.
Mm,
It's with an S. There was an adoption.com, and now and what it is it's a network for all adoption services.
mm,
So there's basically four primary clients in adoption. There's adoptive families, there's birth moms, there's adoptees, and then there's waiting children. And
mm,
those waiting children are mostly in foster care, but they could be in other places too. And so we're going to invite people to come in as a primary client, and then we're going to have adoption service providers,
mm,
such as adoption agencies, lawyers, therapists, foster care, social workers, anybody that provides services to any of those primary clients. And
interesting.
they're gonna come in, they'll make their profile. If they're a business, they might wanna make a page. If they're an adoptive family, they'll wanna make their parent profile. Um, and then people will be able to talk with each other. There'll be a community feeling, sorta like Facebook.
Mm, mm,
There'll also be the opportunity to create your own private groups, and those groups can be public or they can be private, and then they can be monitored, where before the comment goes out, it's approved first in
mm,
cases where that's needed. That's
mhm,
not always needed, but in cases where it's needed, that might be. And then we're gonna have a connection engine where based upon what people are needing and then what other people are providing,
mm.
we'll do some sort of connecting them together
Oh,
and then
wow.
allowing them to get to know each other. So that we hope to get that preliminarily launched in the first of the year.
That's cool. Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues that I talk with families about all the time is they don't feel they feel alone. They feel like nobody understands what in the world they're going through.
Mhm.
And there's comments that you sometimes just want to choke somebody. We were it was Mother's Day, which
Mm,
is a hard day.
mhm. It is a
Um,
hard day.
and we were at church, and one of the kiddos didn't want to be. They were taking pictures, and he didn't really want to be in the pictures.
Mhm,
And so the pastor's wife is like, "Hey, you should just be glad you have a mom who wants to take your picture."
mm,
Oh my god, I almost lost it in the middle of this church. And I had to have a meeting with the pastor and be like, "Dude, listen, like you can't you can't say that, you know." And so yeah, so we do. You feel just isolated, and so having that place to have a
mhm.
community focus, that's part of the reason for the podcast, is a
For
place for
sure.
community, right? A place
Absolutely.
for coffee, connection, and community. We do better, and I say this all the time, but we do better in community. And so just being around and hearing from other people that are walking the walk, that have lived it, is just it's just so beneficial.
It's so needed because people don't understand,
Yeah.
and if they've not been through it, but that's the way it is in every aspect of our life.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have a clue what it's like to raise a kiddo with autism. I mean,
Right,
I have a
right,
best friend who had twin autistic boys, but I haven't raised kids with autism, so
right,
I don't understand it. And
right.
so, I mean, I understand this much. they were 3, and we had put the parents up in a hotel for the night just to give them a break, and we were walking the boys to the park, and on the way to the park, we were gonna stop at the car, just to get bottles of water, and they knew how to get to the park. And so taking 10 steps off the path to stop and get some water out of the car that was a no. So I was like, okay, you go get the water. We're gonna keep walking, and stuff like that. But yeah, we've not raised kids with autism. I can't speak to that. And so yeah, but anyway, so what is your kind of philosophy surrounding adoption, right? Because like you said, there is a stigmatism around moms that choose to have their kiddos adopted. How do you work through that because this is a hard thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. If I would have put it in 2 words, it would be self-determination.
Mm,
That would be my 2 words, and because the idea is, okay, first of all, for a woman to get to the point where she's wanting to place her child for adoption, some pretty challenging things have had to happen to her in her life,
yeah,
and, um, we can all imagine them, and, probably anything we can imagine has happened and more.
yeah,
So they've gotten to a place where they're really often very vulnerable. Um, and they don't see other options or other
mhm,
choices for them to make. And so they really do have 3 options. They have the option to parent this child, they have the option to abort this child in some situations, and they have the option to do an adoption. Of those 3, all of them are painful.
mm,
All of them are challenging. Adoption is especially challenging. It's especially challenging because you're now going to choose to let this life live inside of you and grow inside of you and go through all of the things that you have to go through in a pregnancy, and then you're gonna have to deliver this child, which either will come out vaginal or a C-section, and neither of them are very comfortable. So you're
mm,
gonna go through all of that, and then you're gonna take this child and hold it and love it and want it, and all of the emotions that come with motherhood
mm,
and parenting are going to rise, and then you're going to hand it to somebody else.
yeah,
That is really a big thing.
mm,
And 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 so honoring the fact that these women are willing to choose to do that is really an important thing. And then to recognize that after that they do that, they're going to go through the natural, normal feelings of anger,
mm,
wanting to undo it, immense grief, loss, um, before they eventually come to a point where they can feel okay. And honestly, there are some women that never get to the point where they feel okay
yeah,
about what they've chosen to do.
right,
And so, one of the challenges for all of us in the adoption to community is to try to help put a purpose to it. Now, sometimes it's difficult to go to that place of there is a purpose for why I did what I did. And but that purpose can't come if there's a sense of victimhood, meaning
mm,
I was a victim. And many of these women very much are victims. They're
yeah,
victims from their circumstances, they're victims from their family, they're victims from drugs, they're victims from lack of education. There's lots of victim things. The challenge is when they go through that feelings of victim and they don't feel that there was a purpose to why they went through what they did.
mm,
It makes the grieving process even more challenging.
sure,
So, going back to my 2 words of self-determination, making sure that we give these women the options and then the resources and the freedom to determine themselves what they're going to do, then allows them both to go through it and then to go through it with purpose and to go through it and heal from it later on, feeling like I made that decision. I chose to do it, and I did make that decision based upon these reasons, and now I feel okay about it because even though it's painful, even though I hurt, even though I feel the loss, I feel okay about it. And
Yeah.
then giving them the follow-up, the ability to see that, yeah, the child's happy, the parents love them, it's a good thing, it turned out okay. Give
Mhm.
them the opportunity to see the consequences of their choices and that those consequences turned out good
Right.
is also an important part of that.
Yeah. So you're a pretty big proponent of an open adoption when, when it's appropriate?
Well, I'm a big proponent, and sometimes people call it a semi-open adoption. Um, we have created a software, and it's going to go into this adoptions.com software that we're creating, but we call it Hearts Connect. And what
Mm.
it is it's a way of them going into a group that the adoptive family, the birth mother, and eventually the adoptee himself or herself could be in, where they can communicate back and forth easily, and where also it can be monitored. It can
Mm.
be monitored if needed. Now, some
Yeah.
people don't need monitorization, and some people do. But also, the monitorization helps to keep the counselor involved in it and can step in when needed.
Mm.
So, I'm a very big proponent of having that as an option out there.
Yeah.
So our adoptive families come in with the agreement that that's what they're going to do. And they're going to go ahead and post in it whether or not the birth mother chooses to look.
Yeah.
And what's one of the funnest parts about it is that birth moms will often not. And adoptive families will say, well, will she even just like the post? And they may not even want to like it.
Mm.
But we have a way of being able to see that they come in and see it. And even if they don't comment and they don't like it or anything, push the like, you can tell that they care and they
Mm.
watched and it matters to them that they can see how their child's doing.
Wow.
Now, whether or not that goes beyond and they get a relationship that's a direct relationship, that's up to them.
Mhm.
Or whether or not they have visitations and that type of stuff, that's also up to them. But we start with that, what we consider the minimum requirements for adoptive families to post, and then where the relationship grows to from there is up to them.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you know, going back to the stigmatism, I mean, you know, so many. Okay, so uh, an agency here that um, places that's for aftercare for young women, right? So
Sure.
they've been in foster care, they've aged out, so they stay in care, um, and so there's housing, there's help them with school and that kind of stuff. But a percentage of them end up pregnant, and then their kiddos are in foster care. And so we're dealing with generational struggles, generational uh, consequences. And so, I mean, we did a placement package for she was 14. And so she was placed with the foster family, but her daughter was also placed with
Mm.
the child. And
Oh,
so with
so
the
so the foster family, adopted her and her daughter?
right. Well,
Wow.
it was foster, so
Oh,
I don't
foster
know
care.
what
Yeah, so it
the
was foster.
outcome was,
Okay.
but yeah, the foster daughter was there, and then the
Mm,
foster daughter's daughter was both with
mm,
his foster family. And so, anyways, what I'm getting at is we tend to have this super negative opinion of moms that are going through this, and the reality is they're struggling. We were at in an event. We'd gone and had an event, and then we were having lunch afterwards. It was a little town, so everybody knew everybody, kind of thing. And one of the people that was participating in some of the stuff that we were doing up there was really kind of hating on these moms that have their kids in care. And our waitress knew the guy, and
mm,
she was like, "Hey, listen, my kids were in care for 5 years. I was spending $400 a week on heroin, and it took me 5 years to get clean, and to get my kids back." And so, really kind of shocked him to say, "Oh my gosh," I mean, so we have to have compassion, for the moms as much for the moms as for the kids, and
for sure.
so
And we also have to have compassion for the adoptive families,
yeah.
because adoptive families come into these situations and they've come from their own struggles. Now, usually they're in a different situation in life. Usually they're more financially stable, they're usually
Mhm.
more educated, and they have options that birth parents don't. And that's
Yeah,
why they're in a position to adopt. But
yeah.
they also bring their own struggles. They
Mhm,
bring their own disappointments, their own loss, and then they also bring um, their commitment.
mhm.
Their commitment to, adopt a child that sometimes is drug related, is sometimes has these additional problems. There will be attachment issues, there'll be all of these other and they're gonna take that child into their life, and they're gonna love that child and care for them, and then they're gonna learn how to navigate the relationships between them and the biological family. And
Mhm.
some of those are that brings in a whole 'nother element into your life. I will often people have asked me, "Well, should I do this?" Meaning, "Should I adopt this child?" And my response generally is, "Only if you want your life to change. If you are perfectly happy with your life how it is, then don't.
Right.
But if you want your life to change, if you want your heart to grow, if you want your existence to be more full, more rich, and much more challenging,
Yeah,
then do this."
yeah. Well, you're hitting on that. Let's talk about the attachment issue, right? I'll tell another story. I was at a men's breakfast, and we were going around the table talking who needed prayers, whatever. And one of the guys mentions this couple that had just brought in a 3-month-old little girl into their home, and she wasn't sleeping,
That you
and
would?
she wasn't sleeping.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
so he was asking for prayer for this family. And one of the guys pops off and he's like, "Well, yeah, she's a 3-month old. They don't sleep." And I'm like, listen, dude. Like, this is not your 3-month-old daughter that that your wife carried and then, you've had her and she's been here. Like, it's like, I tell people it's like dropping a kid, dropping you in the middle of the Amazon jungle naked. Like nothing is
And
familiar.
wonder, "Why are you crying?"
Right. Right. Like, come on. I mean, there's this thought that, and it blows my mind that it's still the thought out there that these babies come as a blank slate and they don't know anything and they're just now they're in this safe and stable and loving home and so everything should be good. And it's like, didn't work like that.
Yeah. So, let me ask you. So, I often hear that there's trauma that goes with adoption, and
Yeah.
I love your analogy of dropping a child in the middle of the Amazon and everything's so foreign to them.
Right.
Now, granted, hopefully someone will care for them and cuddle them and help them move forward, but there is a feeling of, exposed, fear, trauma.
Yeah.
So, um so why do it?
Right. Well, I do it. Um, so because somebody has to, because these kiddos, they deserve to be safe and stable and loved, right? I mean, they just do. I mentioned, and we're going to talk later. I was adopted, and we approach things as parents with the mindset like we're like our home is not going to be like that, right? Because when we were adopted, I mean, my mom would turn to my dad and say, I'm sorry I ever made you adopt these boys. If I could go back and do it again, I wouldn't,
Oh, land.
in front of us, right? And so we approached it from the perspective of that is not there was not such a thing as unconditional love in our home growing up. And so our like kind of driving force is they're going to know that they're valued and loved, like, period. Like, there is unconditional love in this home. And something like 400,000 kids in foster care across the country, they deserve to be valued and loved.
So I want you to repeat that number again.
400,000.
400,000. almost 500,000 kids
Yeah, in foster care.
are in foster care
Yeah, yeah,
and do not feel like they have a permanent home.
yeah, yeah. That's just the ones that are yeah, just in foster care. In Texas, there's over 6,000 kids in foster care that are ready and willing and waiting to be adopted. It's mind-boggling.
That is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
What are their ages?
Man, they're, all the way birthed all the way up to 18. Of course, a big, big chunk of them are teenagers, right? I mean, a lot of people do not want to adopt teenagers because they've been in, they've been in care for 10 years and they've had 30 placements. We had a girl on that had aged out of foster care, and it was one of our first episodes. And she lost count, but her high school, just in her high school time, she had between 50 and 60 placements.
That is crazy.
Right.
And
Because 50 and 60 placements in 4 years. Right. So she aged out of foster care, got pregnant, went and hooked up with her bio mom. Her bio mom had not she was not in a good place, and so they got into it, and her bio mom kicked her out of the car in Lubbock, pregnant, and she had nobody else in Lubbock. She knew nobody else, and so she ended up connecting friend of a friend to that aftercare place for the young women that I mentioned a little bit ago. But yeah, 50 to 60 placements in high school.
and there's often the statement made, "There's no unwanted children, there's just unfound families."
Mm,
And, um, I hope my dream, I suppose my dream in connection with adoptions.com in bringing in these adoptive families is that they would come in and they would get connected with resources that could
mhm,
help them,
yeah,
um, be prepared to take on some of these children,
yeah,
and that because we know that there are thousands of families out there if they had the appropriate education, if they had the knowledge, they have the room. They have the
mhm,
room in their house, they have the room in their hearts,
yeah,
and they're willing to take on some of these kids. Um, we just need to get them together.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard. These babies, they deserve to be valued and loved and have a safe, stable place. And so that's a big part of what we try to do is raise awareness. Hey, there's a ton of kids out there that just need somebody to love them. And yeah, it's going to be hard. You talk about trauma, man, it's tough. Um,
And so we go back to the whole idea of adoption of a newborn, and we're getting a lot of flack about that right now, across the nation about, "Well, this is trauma for these women." Yeah, it is. Or, "This is trauma for the adoptee." Yeah, it is. Um, so what's the alternative?
exactly. Yeah.
And so the alternative is either the woman, is able for whatever reason to step up and be able to parent. And there's a philosophy out there right now of, well, just give her some more money, just help her with a month or 2 of housing. Okay, but that short-term fix may not deal with a long-term issue. Now,
Not at all.
certainly if it's a short-term fix and that fixes the long-term issue, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the long-term issues are often much, much deeper, and a short-term fix is not going to change it. And so now you're a few months down the road, and she's back in the same position without any additional resources, and now with a child that's 2, 3, 4 months older, and the challenge is even greater.
Yeah.
Or the child ends up in foster care
Yep.
and gets bounced around for the rest of
Mhm.
their life. And these are not good options.
No.
The challenges that I see right now in the adoption community is, and so I very much appreciate what you're doing, is we focus on the immediate problem and try to fix the immediate problem without thinking through what the long-term problem is and where things may end up in a year or 2 years or 3 years, and decide how to fix those problems as
Mhm.
well. Because the immediate problem is painful.
Yeah.
It's painful. We don't want to do it. We don't Birth mothers don't want to place their children for adoption. They
No,
don't want
no.
to. And yet if they choose to do that, um, sometimes it's for the purpose of avoiding a more painful situation down the road.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. And kudos to them for making that decision. All
Mhm.
right. Kudos for them to to go through all the things and then give that baby away. And man, it's just hard. And like you say, I mean, so you guys, so you talked about you support the birth moms
Right.
after. How long does that happen? How long do you how do you support them?
Yeah. No, that's a really interesting question because there's a big debate on that right now. And part of the debate is, well, don't give them any help afterwards because that's just going to make them feel coerced or make them feel extorted or make them
Mm,
feel like they have to do something.
hmm.
Um, and so don't help them. And yet on the other hand, there's well, help them. And so it is an interesting contrast between because anybody who adopts a child, and you could ask, and every one of them would say the same thing, "Do you want us to help your birth mom?" They would say, "Yes!" They would say, "Yes, help our birth mom." Um, but people who are kind of not in favor of adoption as much will say, "Well, don't help them because it makes them feel pressured to do an adoption plan." And so it is a difficult thing that we're facing right now as to how much help to provide because all of us want to help. We
Mm,
don't want this mom to have gone through this traumatic experience and now be back out on the street.
right.
We don't want her to go through this traumatic experience and then have to go into a relationship with, the birth father in a domestic violence situation or all sorts of problems
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could happen. We want them to be able to make sure they've got a home, make sure that they have ample food, be able to get some new clothes, be able to get transportation to get a job, and be able to move forward with their life. And that takes money and some time. And
Mhm.
so we are in a difficult spot right now as to how to provide that without it being perceived or actually be uh, 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 pressure that takes away from the self-determination.
Mm,
It's a difficult balance to walk. My philosophy is give them at least 2 months, of supporting them and giving them a chance to go get a job, make sure that they've healed adequately, and be able to move forward.
yeah.
Help them with housing for a couple of months, help them with something to help them get back on their feet. That, however, is being criticized.
That's crazy.
It's a funny thing to me.
That is
It's a funny
it's
thing to me.
bizarre. So what, you're just supposed to kick them to the curb and say good luck? I mean,
We don't want to influence you, so therefore we're not gonna help you. It's
wow.
it's an amazingly short-sighted perspective from my
Yeah,
point of view,
no kidding.
and is coming from people who don't seem to see the whole picture.
No, right. Yeah, yeah. Oh, man, that just blows my mind that people would be like, "Don't support them afterwards." It just doesn't make any sense to
It
me.
doesn't make any sense.
Mm. So, you talk about true informed consent. What do you mean by that?
Well, true, it's real.
Yeah.
Informed consent, meaning that they clearly understand the options. Now, what are the options? Again, we go back to the options are you can parent the child, you can abort the child. Now, obviously, once they've had the child, they can't abort it. But so then their choices are parent this child or place this child for adoption. Those are the two options.
Mm.
So, um, the big challenge there is to make sure they're clear about what the consequences are. Well, the biggest challenge is if I place this child, will I be able to get them back?
Mm.
And it depends on the laws of the states.
Yeah.
Can I get them back? Meaning, is the relinquishment or the giving up of the child that I'm doing undoable? And
Mm.
and that depends on the laws of the states.
Sure.
Um, so making sure they're clear about that. The second thing is there a period of time in which when I could get the child back? The next real important consequence is, am I going to have any relationship with the child once I place them for adoption?
Mm.
And that's going to be dependent again on several factors. One is primarily the adoptive family. Or is the adoptive family willing to stay involved in the birth mom's life? So
Mm.
that's an important part. And what does that look like? Will I be able to have visits? Will I be able to have any sort of relationship? And that's when I talked with you about Hearts Connect. We want to put it out minimally that there will be the opportunity to see pictures and letters, and that the birth mom can have the chance to respond to that or not respond to that. But that particular option will be her. That's informed. So will the adoptive family follow through on that? Well, here's the challenge that we have because we can't control adoptive families. Um, and so one of the options is we'll make it legal, make it a legally binding agreement that the adoptive family has to follow. Well, and on the surface, that sounds all fine and good, but
Right.
we all know that forced relationships are the least healthy relationships.
Right.
The best relationships are when both people come into it mutually agreed upon some certain outcome.
Mm.
That's the best relationships, and if you've got this thread of legal, it's gonna mess up the relationship.
For
Now,
sure.
I'm not saying that that shouldn't happen, I'm not making that determination. I'm just saying that a better option than force is education and choice.
Mm.
Because in the same way that birth moms should have self-determination, so should adoptive families have self-determination,
Yeah.
and eventually, so should the children have
Mhm.
that option to do whatever they choose to do. And how does that best come about? Well, it best comes about by creating an environment in which the parties can be apart to the degree that they feel comfortable with, and also feel that their rights are not being stepped upon or their boundaries aren't being crossed.
Mm.
And so that's a tricky thing to do,
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do.
We had so we once we got permanent, we didn't adopt, we couldn't adopt. We got permanent managing conservatorship. We had visitation for about 3.5 years after that,
Mhm.
forced,
And how
and
and it was forced. And
it was
how was
inappropriate.
that
It
for
was
you?
awful.
It was awful?
It was awful for the kids.
Why
It
was
was
it
awful
awful?
for us. There was it was monitored at it was a therapeutic monitoring place, um, and there was a sheaf of paperwork of how visits were supposed to go,
Mm,
what they were supposed to look like, and um, it was she refused to follow the orders and how, and she was constantly doing and saying things that she wasn't supposed to do and scaring the kids and just do. I mean, one time um, we had to bring the kids, but the kids could determine whether or not they wanted to go back or not.
mm,
And so one week, the middle boy didn't want to go back.
mm.
Didn't explain why. He just said, I don't want to go. And so the other two came out with gifts. And
Oh, then
and
he felt bad.
well, yeah. Then he's like, well, where's mine? Well,
You didn't get one because
mom
you
said
didn't go.
exactly. Mom said if you can have it the next time you come. Okay, you can't do that. That's bribery, right? And so I mean it was 3.5 years of every week something. And it finally was stopped by the agency when she snuck in pictures of bedrooms that she had set up for them, so that when they were going to come home. And it was like, it scared them to death. Like, wait a minute, we've been here for like 4.5 years at this point, and we're gonna go. Are we gonna stay here, or are we gonna go live there? What are we doing here? And so, I mean, like, all I'd say is the forced ones, makes it difficult for sure.
And you understand where people are coming from. You understand that they're trying that the foster care system is focused very much on reunification.
Yeah, when it's
That's their
possible.
focus, um, which oftentimes is fine. It's
Mhm.
good, but sometimes it's not.
Yeah. Well,
And
sadly, yeah, in Texas, so they measure recidivism in prison, right? Once you've been in prison, you're more likely to go back to prison, right? They measure that in foster care too. And so 45%, 45% of the kids who have been in care, who go back to biofamily, are back in care within 5 years. Half,
45%.
half. Yeah, back in care. Now, again,
What if there's a double recidivism? I mean, what if they come twice? What does the number jump up to?
to come back a third time,
Mhm.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that would be interesting. I
That would
suppose
be an
it would be
interesting.
high.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. And again, we are compassionate towards the birth parents, right? I mean, we're not out here, you know, you know. There's terrible people. Like I said, a huge percentage of the kids in care will end up with kids in care. And I've seen the numbers. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I mean, it's cycle. It's a cycle. And so, we, at some point, we've got to figure out how to reduce the cycle, stop the cycle
Well,
at some
and
point.
and that is the thing, that is why I admire women who do a voluntary
Yeah.
relinquishment as opposed to an involuntary relinquishment, because they have thought it through,
Hmm.
and they have come to the conclusion that for whatever reason, and the number one reason women give when in some of these challenging situations for doing an adoption plan is that they don't want to be forced into an involuntary one.
Mm.
And that idea of, "I don't wanna lose my kids." And so rather than having the child go through this back and forth thing of foster care, um, they choose to act in the best interest of their child and give them a permanent, home and a permanent relationship.
Right.
And that to me is very mature,
Yeah.
and it's very well thought through. Um, and they're very careful about wanting to have a say in where the child goes, and
Hmm.
that's big for them. I wanna choose the family. I want to make sure that this family has been vetted, that this family has good relationships, that this family is ready to take on a child. I, the mom, want to make those choices, and
Hmm.
then I want to have an ongoing relationship with this child, if at least at pictures and letters and
Sure.
video, I want to have that. And all of that is gone when the child gets taken involuntarily from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
Oftentimes, they'll be talking with social workers, with DCFS and foster care, and the foster care people will say, "Yeah, but you'll have the opportunity to get the child back." And some will say, "Yeah, okay, well, then I'm gonna go for that."
Yeah.
Many will say, "No, no, I don't want this back and forth for my child. I
Yeah.
don't want the back and forth for my child. I want my child to feel secure and safe with wherever they're at."
Right. Yeah, some of the research that I've seen is that every major transition, so the removal,
Mm.
going back, or going from one foster family to the next, is a 6-month behavioral and developmental
Is that
regression.
so?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that one that she'd gone through 50 placements and
Right.
there's no stability, she has no ability to even monitor her behavior.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How do you, golly, how do you as an adult, you know, build solid, stable relationships, and, you know, hold a steady job and do the things with that kind of with that kind of background. I mean, my goodness, that's why she was on the podcast. I respect her so much because now she's doing fantastic. She's a great mom. She's stable. I mean, she's doing really well. But the likelihood of that is just so small. You know,
So how did I'm curious, how did she pull it together?
that agency that does the aftercare
Oh,
for these young moms,
oh.
or young women, not necessarily moms, but yeah, she got into her program, got stabilized, got job, got
What is
all
the name of that program?
called Fostering Independence.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and her story is amazing, because they were just gonna buy a house, and I can't remember all the details, but somehow or another, they were like, instead of buying this house for us, we could put some girls in here that are aging out of foster care, and then it just kind of took off, and all of a sudden she had a nonprofit, it's kind of like ours. I mean, it was just like an idea, and then it just became, she's got several houses, and they do case management and help with the girls with school and cars and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's an
And
amazing
they
organization.
specifically take foster care kids.
Yeah, girls that are aging out of care. So between 18 and 22 or 24, something like that.
See, those kind of resources are those are great resources.
Yeah.
And it would be fun to have that duplicated on in every state.
Oh, absolutely. Every city should have, plenty of places for these kids because you think about it. I mean, turn 18,
You don't know
now you have
nothing.
nowhere to live.
You don't.
Right. I mean, goodness. Uh, what are you going to do at 18 when you don't have any family to turn to? You don't have any, what are you going to do? And so these programs that a lot of 18-year-olds they won't do it. I mean, they're like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do my own thing. But the ones that,
Need it, then they need it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think, how much these kids go through, and then it's no wonder the cycle repeats.
Yeah,
Right.
it is no wonder. So how do we break these cycles? And uh, that's our challenge in the
Yeah.
adoption community.
Yeah.
Um, and what's so difficult right now in the adoption community, from my point of view, is that there's kind of because there's trauma in adoption, there's sort of this mindset of we should stop that trauma. We should avoid any trauma in the lives of any of the people in the adoption process, but it's not possible.
Yeah, what option are you left with?
The option you're left with is to do nothing, and
Right.
then what happens is the kids are they either go into foster care or they're out on the street or, whatever problems they are.
Yeah.
So instead, we need to take kind of a proactive role of let's provide these options.
Yeah.
Now, we're not forcing anybody. We don't make anybody do anything. But if we limit their options, we limit their options.
Mhm.
And so, how do we avoid limiting people's options? Well, to give people options, you have to let them see, you have these are the directions you can go, and then show them the resources that could help them go the
Mhm.
direction that they choose, and then provide those resources and make sure. And I loved what you asked when you said, make sure there's true. What did you call it? There's true and
Informed consent.
informed consent,
Yeah.
that they're very clear. This is what will happen.
Yeah.
Here's the consequences that will follow if you make this choice here. And if you make this choice, well, some of those consequences we can't predict.
Yeah.
If you decide to parent, can we predict what those consequences will be? No, no, we can't. But we can make some educated guesses, and we
Mhm.
can share those educated guesses with them,
Yeah.
and then we go back to that self-determination.
Yeah.
Then we give them the freedom to decide themselves what they're gonna choose, and we support
Yeah.
whatever the decision they
Whatever
make.
decision. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. We need to do that better. In the
Yeah.
whole adoption community, we need to do that better.
Oh man, absolutely. I mean, and then too, on the adoptive parent side, the foster parent side, uh, I don't know how to do it better.
Mm.
How to prepare them better, because I know there's trainings and you get told and all the things, but there's a book that we put in all of our placement packages by a woman named Robin Goebel, and it's called Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors.
With
And
big what?
with big baffling behaviors.
Big baffling behaviors.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was on the podcast a couple months ago. She
Mhm.
has a podcast, and um, it's the way the book is written is really interesting, because it's Robin with a fictional mom who has adopted, and so it's kind of a bird's eye view of this kind of coaching
Mm.
relationship for like a year, as they sit together and have conversations, and then Robin kind of breaks them down and things like that. But what struck me just in my soul when I read it
Mm.
and then decided we were going to start putting them in placement packages. Nat is the young mom who is sitting with Robin, and she's the first thing she says is, "I knew it was going to be hard. I didn't know it was going to be this hard." Right? And I have said that, and I have heard that said so many times. So how we can better support families that are bringing these kiddos into their homes and better prepare them for the struggles that they're going to face, I don't have the answer. That's why that's why we give everybody a copy of the book, because this is hard. This is raising kids is hard, period. But then when you add in trauma, man, it's tough. It is so
I
hard.
love that title,
Mhm.
Big Baffling Behaviors.
Yeah.
I love that title because any of us who have raised children that have these extra challenges,
Hmm.
that's how we feel. This
Yeah.
is a big baffling behavior. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
And we go and we get counsel and we go and try to help people. I remember sitting in a meeting. It was at one of these ranches or these wilderness. It wasn't a wilderness program because there was housing, but it's where kids were sent that they needed inpatient,
Mhm.
long-term inpatient, counseling and care, and they had a school there and things like that. Um, there's a lot of people that are very much against those programs, and to some degree, I understand why. On the other hand, I sat in a room, with a bunch of parents that had brought their children to this program and listened to their stories,
Mm.
and one of the common things was, "I don't know what to do."
Right.
I simply he or she walks in the room, and I can't even breathe. I can't even breathe. I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the challenge is neither does the child.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
child doesn't know what to do. The child is at such a loss as
Right.
to what they're supposed to do, and they're not acting malevolent. They're not
Right.
saying, "I wanna hurt my mom." They're not doing that. They're just responding to what are big baffling feelings
Right.
inside of them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so hard, really from everybody's perspective, but from the foster and adoptive parents, to to try to figure out how to help this kid who they don't understand why they're feeling what they're feeling. So many times there's a trigger in there that they're not even conscious of, and it's bringing up something that they don't consciously remember, but they remember the feeling. And that's one of the big premises of the book is, um, we're we get these triggers based off of something that we don't have conscious memory of, but it makes us feel like we're reliving it in the moment, even though it's a completely different scenario, but your body remembers the feeling from before, and makes a and then you react in a certain way, And so that's what makes this journey just so hard for the families, for the kids, because I mean, when you're dealing with trauma, we have done so much research and learning in the last probably 10, 15 years um, around trauma and trying to understand it better, because I mean, it's deep. You can't just power through it. You can't just get over it. You got to do some work to heal. But that's one of the big things um, that gives me hope, is that there is hope. There is healing uh, from this trauma. I mean, there is.
So where are you finding that healing? I know I've interviewed a few people that that's been their life's work, is
Hmm.
how do you work with the somatic, meaning the bodily feelings of
Exactly.
people that are experiencing trauma
Yeah.
and help that to heal?
Yeah.
What are you finding?
So I have been doing some EMDR that has been really beneficial, and then and
Just
then
so in
therapy.
case people don't know what EMDR is, explain that.
Yeah, so EMDR, I can't remember what it stands for. Eye movement, something with a DR. I can't remember. Something with a DR.
I'll look it up while we're talking.
Right. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can do it with like paddles in your hands, or headphones on your ears, or tapping on your legs, or a bunch of different ways to do it. But it's the craziest thing. I sat there the first time and I was like, this is dumb. How the heck is this going to work?
Mhm,
But you
mhm.
sit there and you think about this memory, whatever memory is troubling you, and you just think about it, and then you however you're doing it, whether it's the light or the paddles or whatever, and there's this sensation going between left and right, left and right, and left and right, and somehow, and again, there's all science behind it, and I don't understand how the heck it works, but somehow it moves that memory from where you're feeling it to another place in your brain, and so you can think back on that memory and not feel like you're in it.
Mhm.
Right. And again, there's a whole science behind it that I don't understand. But I remember sitting there the first time thinking, this is dumb. There's no way that this can do anything. And it did. I
Yeah.
mean, and so I've done that some, and then some therapy, and then I read a lot. I'm reading Adam Young's book right now, Making Sense of Your Story,
Mm.
which has been really really good. Then the Body Keeps Score, and uh, oh gosh, What Happened to You with Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry, right?
Mm.
And so trying to do a lot of the work of overcoming my traumas and trying to help my kids with their traumas.
I'm gonna just fill in just a couple of things what we talked about. So, EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yeah.
Um, and like you were describing, it's a way of taking a memory from an area of your brain and moving it in such a way so that it reprocesses that memory so that it's less distressing and
Yeah.
it's better integrated in with the rest of your life. And it works.
Hmm.
It works. When worked with a therapist that knows how to do it and does it well, it can take things that were traumatic, very traumatic, and give them purpose.
Hmm.
And when we there's a lot of studies in grief that we talk about the stages of grief or the cycle of grief, and it goes denial, it goes bargaining, then anger, I'm missing one, and then it goes to acceptance.
Hmm.
But one of the things that's really becoming very apparent is that if you add another stage, which is purpose,
Mm.
then it brings the whole cycle of grief into a different well. And in some ways, EMDR is doing that on a somatic level, on a bodily level. But we can do it cognitively and we can actually prepare people for it. There is a purpose to the pain that you're going through.
Mm.
Now, if you talk with a mom who's giving a birth to a baby, she would say there was pain. There was a
Yeah.
lot of pain, But
Sure.
when the baby came out and the baby was now there and she could see the purpose, it's not that the pain was never there.
Yeah.
It's that pain now has a purpose to it,
Oh,
and
wow.
therefore you move beyond it. You
I
move
love
past
that.
it.
I love that.
And I think we can do that. Workers, weightlifters that go into the gym and they lift weights, it hurts as
Yeah.
they're lifting their weights, but they have a reason for it, and there's a purpose to their pain.
Yeah, I
When
love
we
it.
lose track of what that purpose is, when we lose track of why we're going through what we do, or we have never been able to see the why, and you
Mm.
think of a poor little kid that's, in foster care and bounced around from here to there, they can't see the purpose. There's all they feel is the pain,
Yeah.
and that would be very difficult for them. Well, they can't. They can't
Yeah.
process it. They don't have
Yeah.
any way to do it. And
Right.
so having people that can work with them on that, on levels that they can't even, uh, articulate,
Mm.
I is a useful thing.
For sure. Man, this is such a good conversation. I'm so glad we got to do this. Um,
Me too.
so, let's see. Um, okay, I think we're gonna get past all that. So, tell us a little bit specifics on Heart to Heart. How does it work? Are you just in like a certain area, or do you do the whole country, or
For sure.
how does Heart to Heart work?
Yeah, and when I talk about providing options for women, one of the things that's being argued, on a national level is that women should not have the option of being advertised to, meaning they shouldn't be able to see ads from anywhere except for in their own state.
Mm,
And I, of course, disagree with that because n not always are the options for women in their state what they need.
yeah.
Um, and so we advertise throughout really most of the states. There's a few states that don't allow us to advertise because of the thing I just said, which they want only women, they want the women in their state only to see the options of the services in their state,
Mm,
which, that's their laws. And so we abide by their laws. It does, in my opinion, limit women to the options that they have. But the argument is that they shouldn't have them. Um, so we advertise throughout the United States, and we work with women all throughout the United States. If they need to get away from where they're at, we can arrange for them to do that.
mm,
Most women stay where they're at, but they need usually additional help with housing, sometimes help with getting their phone, their utilities. Sometimes they'll need help finding medical providers where they're at. Um, and then we provide counseling, and that counseling can be over the phone counseling, or we can help get them face-to-face
mm,
counseling.
yeah.
Then they are then based upon then they say, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for in a family. I want a couple. I don't want them to have children. I want them to have a dog," or whatever it is that they're looking
Mhm,
for in a family. And
yeah.
generally, what they're looking for is simple. I want someone to love my child.
Right.
That's I want someone to love my child. I don't care about their religion. I don't care about their education. I don't care about even if they have other kids. But sometimes they do. And so then based upon whatever it is that they are looking for, we have many, many families that have gone through the whole home study process. They've gotten their home studies, they've gotten their background checks, they've gotten references, they've got medical checks. And so they have been very, very thoroughly vetted.
Yeah.
And then they create profiles where they show about themselves. They have
Mm,
pictures and so we provide those profiles to the moms. And the moms will then say, I really want to talk with this particular family, or I want to talk with three of these families. And
mm,
so we arrange for those conversations. And then eventually they can choose the family that they want. We try to arrange for them to get together at some point before the delivery happens, if possible. Sometimes it's not
mhm,
possible. And then they get together at the delivery. Now,
mm,
most of the children we do are newborns. We do, however, have women that will come and say, I tried to parent, but I can't.
yeah.
And so they'll place their children a little later, and sometimes months later, sometimes even years later. And so we go through the same process
Yeah.
with them.
I love that you guys provide counseling support for these moms because I mean, that has, I mean, it just has to be so hard, to make that decision, that I can't do this, and what's best for this child is to not be with me. I mean, that has just got to be
As parents, we can't even hardly fathom that.
no.
We can't fathom that, and the additional part that we can't fathom is how do I live with that afterward?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I failed my child, and so the purpose that needs to be built into this conversation, and it's not fake, it is real, is I want more for my child than I am able to provide,
Mm,
and because love my child enough, I'm willing to let that child go in order for them to get what I can't provide for them.
right. Yeah.
That's huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you talk about it being difficult to find that purpose. I'll tell you another story. So I met my bio mom in my 30s, and she refused to accept any responsibility for the
Mm,
fact that there was five of us that
mm,
were
interesting.
she had five. The
And you all
middle
went into foster care,
all four of us did. The
4 of you went into
middle
foster care.
sister, her biological dad heard that CPS was coming, grabbed her and took her
Mm.
out of the state. And so the four of us were placed in care, and multiple times. But the last time, um, we were placed spread out, and then my parents came and adopted the four of us. Um, but so in fast forward to my 30s, where I'm getting to know her some, and she would not accept any responsibility for anything and her statement was, those foster care workers, they get a bonus every time they put a child in care. And I'm like, no,
So
they
she
they really don't. So she could not find a purpose for us, having been gone, and couldn't deal with it. 30 years later, she had no capacity to deal with the fact that she was not a capable parent, and so CPS had to take us.
that is so interesting. Um, so she never ever was able to not feel like the victim.
Mm-mm.
She always felt like the victim and
Right.
never could rise to the point of saying, "Yeah, I did things wrong. Yeah, I kinda screwed this up. Um, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to be whatever I can for my children now, even
Right.
later on."
Yeah.
So, what is your relationship with her like now?
I don't have one.
Don't have one,
No.
because she could never get past the, "It's not my
Mm-mm.
fault. It's
No,
not my
everything was
fault."
everything. She was the victim in everything. She needed money. She needed this. She needed that, and it was everything was always about her. And I couldn't. I just, Mother's Day came, and we had stuff with my mom and stuff with my wife's mom and things like that. So I called her the next day, and oh my gosh, she was furious.
Mm.
Your mom has had, however many years, 30 years of Mother's Days with you, and you can't even find time to call me on Mother's Day. It's my turn, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like she's just not healthy at all.
Yeah,
And
and
so
you
I
don't
actually
did she
stopped.
ever parent any child
She
successfully
she ended up having 2
Mhm.
later,
that she was able
and
to parent?
she was, yeah, I mean, it was not a great,
Mhm.
scenario, just from because I've had, conversations with those 2, but, yeah, so, yeah.
No, that's really interesting.
Mm.
And how has that left you feeling?
Man, it's just hard. I mean, it is hard because my adoptive parents were not great. She was not great, and so, I have had to do a lot of work trying to get to a point where, I write some I am statements every morning.
Mm,
That's one of the first things that I do. And, a lot of times I write, I am valuable and worth. I am valuable and loved. We had coins made, like challenge coins. They're big, heavy coins that we put in our placement packages for these kiddos that say, I'm valued and loved, right? Because that is a hard thing to believe, right? When you've been through the things that I've been through, that these kids in foster care have been through, it's difficult to internalize that they have worth, that you have value.
It's really interesting or tempting to get mad at people. For example, to get mad at your adopted parents and
Mhm.
say, "You should have done a better job."
Yeah,
And then you pause and you go, "Well, I suspect they did as good a job as they possibly could."
right.
And you can get mad at the foster care program. "They should have found better foster care parents." Well, there's not tons of foster care parents that would be or adoptive parents that are gonna take on 4 kids.
Yeah.
That's a lot of kids to
Mhm.
take on.
Yeah.
Um, and you can get mad at your biological mom and say, "Well, she should have done a better job, or she should have just kept her legs closed," or something. You could do all kinds of things like that. But eventually, it's all your feelings have to come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to decide what you're gonna do about it. I mean, you can't go back and change it, so you have to learn to, and I like that's what I like about how you're talking about taking it and making purpose, right? And I've told my kiddos now, like, God has taken my pain of being in the foster care system, being adopted, and all the things, and used it to for me to sit here and say, I'm gonna bring these kiddos into my home, and I'm gonna love them, and they are gonna know that they are loved, right? That is God taking my pain and turning it into a purpose.
I I think the problem of pain,
Mhm.
that's a worldwide and, eternal problem, the
Mm,
problem of pain,
mm,
meaning why do we live in a world that there's so much pain?
yeah,
And many people, they say, "Well, there can't be a God if there's so much pain, why would a God allow that pain to happen?" And adoption's bad because it's pain, foster care is bad because it's pain, parenting's bad because it's pain, and everything has an element of pain to it.
yeah,
So, how do we deal with that? Well, we really have 2 choices, and those choices are either blame it on somebody else,
right,
blame it on our parents, blame it on our kids, blame it on God, blame it on somebody, or the second choice is find purpose to it.
right, yeah,
And
yeah,
how can I use what I'm going through right now to become a better person, to provide a better service, to understand people more fully?
mm,
Uh, e Those are our 2 choices when
yeah,
faced with pain, and
yeah,
sometimes we can't make it in the midst of the pain. All we can do is just simply survive
yeah,
in the midst of the
yeah,
pain,
yeah,
but afterwards, and it's like the mom having a baby, um, in the midst of the pain, she just either gets drugs or something, or she just endures it because she anticipates there will be a purpose.
yeah,
Sometimes we can't anticipate, sometimes we just feel pain.
yep,
But afterwards, when the pain subsides, then sometimes we can see the purpose and utilize it.
right, yeah.
So you've done that in connection with becoming a better foster parent yourself.
I've sure tried. I don't know that I've arrived yet, but we are fighting the fight and doing what we can to
How old are your kids now?
13, 16, and 18.
Ooh, you're in the midst of it, aren't you?
Yeah.
You are in the middle of it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep, it's an
And how are they do
ongoing, that's what I say, it's a challenge.
how are they doing?
It's tough. We've this year has been really challenging, with just a whole bunch of stuff going on, p pain issues happening and things like that, but it's, we're doing the what we can. We're loving them through it, so.
One of the things that I don't know, I'm not telling this for everyone to learn, from because I'm still freaking learning from it.
Mhm.
Um, because it's gonna sound bad, but lower our expectations.
Mm.
Um, we try to parent kids, we try to do things, and we have these high expectations, and they're gonna be this, and they're gonna be that, and they're gonna do this, and they're gonna do that, and then we compare our poor kids to our imaginary expectations,
Yeah.
and we're always disappointed,
Right.
and then we beat ourselves up, um, because our kids didn't reach the expectations that we had in our imaginary mind,
Mhm.
and then we condemn our poor kids for doing something that it's beyond their ability to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, um, it's hard to lower our expectations because then we think, "Well, we're a failure. We
Right.
failed our children," and we have to deal with our own loss of our dreams and our hopes, but our choice is we either go through that loss or we put the burden on our children to be something that's not possible for them
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah. Just gotta love them through it and do, you do you do the best that you can do, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not, and then you have to come back and say you're sorry and
Uh,
try to be better next time. I mean, we have to you got to do the best you can.
yeah.
So
Well, I could ask you a lot more questions.
yeah, no doubt. We probably need to wrap this up.
Yeah,
Um,
but we can maybe talk again another
no,
time.
I definitely want to, because this has been a great conversation, and hopefully thought provoking, right? I mean, like I said, like we've said, there's a lot of there's just a lot of negative thought patterns and things like that around this, and so I hope that some folks out there will hear this and maybe have a little more compassion in their thoughts and the way that they treat folks. So how do they find you?
Oh, just go in, type in Heart to Heart Adoptions, and our
Hard to hard
website will
adoption.
come up, except for in some states.
Yep. All
Some
right.
states
So
that don't want anyone to have the option.
wow, that's crazy.
It
Yeah,
is it's a funny thing.
that
It's
is.
a funny thing.
Yeah.
Control versus freedom.
No kidding. That's well. So thank you so much, Donna, for coming on and just sharing all the perspectives from the infant or the baby or kiddo that's getting adopted, to the birth parents, to the adoptive families. It's really, really good. So thank you so much for coming on. Guys, please like, subscribe, share all the things. I feel like we have a really good message here, and so I want more people to see it. So please consider sharing, and subscribing. And then, as I said at the beginning, 144 placement packages this year. Our goal next year is 250. There's 600 that come into care in the 26 counties in a given year. And so we want to get to where every kiddo gets a placement package. We need your help to get there. So we ask folks to be placement package partners. $10 a month buys us an outfit for a kiddo each month. $50 buys us a case of diapers. $100 buys us all the clothes for a package. So go to our website, panhandleorphan.org/donate, and you can set up a monthly gift there. Thank you guys so much. And Donna, thank you again. So
Thank
just
you.
for a really compassionate and interesting conversation. So thank
It's
you.
been so fun. It's been
Yeah,
so fun.
absolutely.
We'll talk
All
soon.
right. See you
Thanks.
guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.